the first of the candidates forums. We have another one next Tuesday night in Cornelius, and then on October 9th in Huntersville. So come on out and see what's going on in those towns as well. And with that, actually, I want to thank WSIC for sponsoring tonight and broadcasting this for us. So with that, I will turn it over to Mayor Knox.
Hello. You talk into this thing, you can get a lot of volume out of. I have a big mouth anyway. Thank y'all. As Brian said, I am running unopposed again. I don't take that lightly. I still will work the polls. I will still be there all day shaking hands on election day. This is very important to me. I do this job full time, and it's the best job I ever had. I want to thank WSIC and the chamber for putting this on. We do have 3 more in Davidson. We do have 3 more candidate forums. We have one Monday night. I can't remember the rest of the dates, but we'll make sure to put them out on the town website so you have them. I know there is one Monday that is here also. I do want to acknowledge that Commissioner Steve Justice is out of the country on a planned vacation from a year ago. So they couldn't deviate. He's seeing some children that he has living in England. And Ryan Fay, Commissioner Fay, had a family commitment tonight that he could not reschedule, so he will be in attendance on Monday night. Other than that, I want to thank you folks for being here. I hope more people show up. This is still an important election this fall. Besides electing the mayor and commissioners, we have school board candidates, and we have a transit tax referendum that's on the ballot as well. And I urge you to do your homework on both the transit tax and the school board candidates, as well as the candidates for commissioner, because it's even though it's an off-year election, it's important, and it's important to our town, it's important to our region. So thank you, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin.
I'm assuming, thank you, Mayor Knox. Thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate the town of Davidson for letting us come in tonight. Just a heads up for everybody, too. We are broadcasting live on WSIC right now from this room, so we're grateful for that opportunity to be able to broadcast to the world the candidates that are running for Davidson commissioners tonight, as well as Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District 1. And so we are excited about that. I'm assuming I'm going to be allowed to continue talking because Bill Russell isn't running up here to take the microphone from me. So Bill Russell will be down in the front row here helping with some time things, and as well as if you have any questions. Oh, Miss Leah Trowbridge is in the back here with, it looks like cards and pens for those that would like to submit questions. You are welcome to. We are also monitoring online our video stream. We are video streaming as well from here tonight, and people can submit questions online. We do anticipate those coming in. I do have this earpiece in my ear right now. That's because I'm talking to the producer team that is in the back of the room and back at our studio, and they will relay those questions to me. In a quick moment, I do want to make sure we do have the 4 wireless mics for our candidates up here, just to give everyone a fair, equal shot of starting across the board. Did you all turn those on by chance? They were off before, so you probably did not. So if you flip the little bottom part, okay, you got green on top here. I can come up here and help. I'm gonna do a little move. My wife says I can't multitask, but I'm gonna prove that not true tonight. Let's see.
Hello,
come on up here. Okay.
Hello.
Is that one? Okay, test 1, 2.
Hello.
Okay, let's try the other one.
Test,
1, 2,
test.
3. Okay. Bill, can you on my 3, 4, 5, 6 for me? Let me check this.
Hello.
Oh yeah, you're good. Let's try that one.
Autumn.
Here we go. Let's go again.
Test 1, 2.
Okay.
1, 2.
Check 1, 2, 3.
You got 3 on that, Bill? You good? Okay, good to go. Perfect. Excellent. All right, so we've got questions down here. If you guys have questions, you can submit them. Otherwise, we will go ahead and get started. And how we're going to do it, I always like to let you guys introduce yourselves first. That's how we like to do these at the forums. So I'm going to go left to right, just started randomly here for this one. So we'll start on the left with you, sir. If you would introduce yourself, your name, and if you whatever you would like to share about yourself.
Okay. My name's David Lusk. I am a somewhat newer resident of Davidson, but lived in the DC area for a number of years, but my wife's originally from the South Charlotte area, so we were looking since about 2019 to get into Davidson. Opportunity opened up with the small business that I run, that I can actually run from pretty much anywhere. And so we've been in the area now since early 23.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Tracy Madison Brandon. I've been living in Davidson for over 16 years. Married to Marvin Brandon, who is a native of Davidson. And so we love living here and being part of the community. And I have over 4 decades of experience in leadership and community advocacy. And so it is my honor to serve as a town commissioner, but also running for the re-election for one of the seats on the board. And so I'm happy to be here. My full-time job is a campus minister, which is almost a 24/7 job with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, and I'm assigned to the Davidson College. So
we appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you. I'm Autumn Ryerson Michael, and we've lived here in town for about 20 years. We live right on Main Street, so I live and breathe the traffic that y'all might talk about tonight. We have 4 kids, so I've got 2 in college and 2 in high school still with me. And for the past 5, I'm a recovering lawyer, and the last 5 years I've been teaching high school civics, which I feel really called to do in our current world, so I've really loved that. I've been on the board for 8 years, so this is my 4th term, and I'm excited to run again this fall. Look forward to being here tonight and hearing the questions.
Thank you for being here.
Hey there, I'm Connie Wessner, and I thought I might just tell you a quick story about why I'm running. So Autumn and I share something in common. I was, for 15 years, a school administrator at Community School of Davidson, where Autumn teaches. And part of my job was to go out and develop our service and experiential learning programs. And so I was in this community a lot, and I would say things like, hey, I have a crazy idea, and it involves you, and it involves what you do for work, and it involves 12 to 15 teenagers. What do you think? And yeah, it was a crazy question to ask. What was crazier to me is that in 15 years, no one ever said no in this community. That speaks to the talent and the creativity, the willingness to collaborate that's in this town and is what makes this town go. And for me, it's kind of the question of, why wouldn't you run for town board when you get the opportunity to stoke something like that? So I'm glad to be here tonight, and I'm interested in your questions.
Thank you all again for being here tonight. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas as running for commissioner here in the town of Davidson. I'm going to go now the reverse direction on the first question, just to do that again. So Connie, you get to talk twice in a row here. What would you say is the ultimate role of a commissioner here in the town of Davidson?
Well, that's a really nice segue from what I was talking about. So in my view, so I served 2 terms on the town board years ago. I've lived here almost 30 years. And I think what I learned as a school administrator, more than as a town commissioner, is that the role of a town commissioner is to clear the decks in front of the people in this community who can make things go. We have an incredible array of talent here. We have a really robust nonprofit sector. And I think the thing that has made Davidson what it is today is the people in this community who've seen problems, seen challenges, seen opportunities, and decided, we can handle that. Let's go ahead and do that. I think the role of a town commissioner is to say, show me how I can help you.
Thank you. Autumn, same question for you. How would you describe what the role of a commissioner in the town of Davidson is?
So I would say that our role is that of vision setting and reflecting. So helping to create a vision for the community, but in doing that, reflecting back what the community is telling us that they want to see. So we see all the time in the news and in articles about what an amazing place this is to live and to visit and to shop. And it's a very intentional place. Davidson didn't become Davidson without a lot of intentionality in decision making. So I think it's setting that vision and then making sure that the decisions we make on the board that then staff implements so well, that's done in a really, really intentional way.
Thank you. Tracy, same question to you. How would you describe the role of a commissioner in the town of Davidson?
I think one of the most important roles of a commissioner is to listen well, to be intentional about what the community needs are and respond to them in a way that considers what's best for the whole and not just for the few. I think that it takes a level of integrity and accountability in the leadership, the type of leadership, and I believe in a servant leadership at that. So I'm walking alongside the residents, my neighbors. I'm walking alongside you in development and interest and values. And so I think that it's important for the commissioner to carry out the values, the stated values of the town. But then also there's a responsibility of future-minded growth where there's balance between progress and preservation. And so I think that we have that also as part of our responsibility to make sure that we do that well.
Thank you. David, you're the last one here to the left for me, so same question.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the role of a commissioner in the town of Davidson?
Well, I think one of the most important things to do as a commissioner is to be a voice for the residents of Davidson. You know, we have a pretty talented staff here at Town Hall, but what's important is that all different voices are represented. And so I think as a commissioner, it's imperative that we listen to folks in the community and understand what they want. And in the 30 years I've been in government relations, I've spent over the last 20-some years looking at ways that I can give people a voice, from working for the organization that invented online advocacy to the advocate training that I do now, where since 2010, I've trained over 15,000 people how to have a voice in front of policymakers at any level. So I think a commissioner needs to be able to listen to the community and understand what their concerns are and then convey that to the greater vision of Davidson.
We're now going to switch to a small topic that we may touch a couple of times throughout the evening, but development is certainly popular these days, it seems like. And so, Autumn, I'll start with you this time. And so how do you think a long-term plan strategy affects development in the town of Davidson?
I think it's critical, no question about it, which is why we have a comprehensive plan that comprehensively looks at transit, transportation, greenways, development, and how we plan communities and allow communities to be planned within the framework that the state allows us to do. So it goes back to that intentionality of creating and allowing a community to be created with that sharp focus and vision on this small town community that we want to be. It's difficult. It really is. Having been here 8 years now, I can tell you it's harder than I thought it would be when I sat on the other side of this, to be intentional when you have so many competing demands and so many competing public policies. But I think that it's looking at them comprehensively and holistically within our plans that makes it so important in how that develop, how we grow and where we grow. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Tracy, same question for you. How does a long-term plan affect the town of Davidson?
The one thing that helps us do long-term planning well is the vision of our town staff, as well as input from community. And what makes sense for Davidson doesn't necessarily make sense for other areas. The development in specific neighborhoods don't match each neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So for me, the intentionality of long-term growth is like, what do we want this to look like for the next generation? What do we want to set in place that still retains the feel, the character of Davidson, but also maybe some progressive in growth. So it's all about smart growth. And for me, that has to do with like mixed use zoning, which we do. And just keeping in mind, like, we don't want to outgrow ourselves, or we don't want to outdevelop ourselves. And we don't want to develop in a way that we lose our community values.
Thank you. David, same question for you. How does a long-term plan affect development in the town of Davidson?
Well, it certainly gives the commissioners and the mayor sort of a roadmap of where we want to go and what we need to follow. And certainly within that is following all the different town ordinances and things that we have to maintain, such as 50% of open space in any kind of future development. I think what's important is to understand it also helps us understand what are the values of the community. We know that Davidson's going to grow. We know that at some point that means change. And it's how do we mitigate that change against competing interests so that it creates a better place. And the place that is a wonderful place to live, which is something that drove most of us here. I think everyone up here is not a native of Davidson. So it's creating a great place and maintaining that, which I think is really more challenging than even creating something to begin with. So, but there's a lot of sort of structure already that the town, we have a great town staff that we can lean on as a member of the Planning Advisory Board. And I've worked with our staff to understand what is already in place, and it's just making certain that our growth aligns with that.
Thank you. And Connie, same question for you. How does a long-term plan affect the development in the town of Davidson?
So I spent 2 terms on the planning board and 2 terms on the town board back in the early part of the 2000s. And Autumn and Tracy are right. There's been a lot of intentionality in the way we've grown and in the way we've looked at the opportunities that growth offers us and the threats that come along with that. I guess the thing that I think about, nearly 2 decades later is we've been really good at it. And sometimes when you're that good at it, you displace people, not intentionally, but you start to squeeze out the people. We've been so good at it. This is an incredibly attractive, affluent place to live. And I think the key factor now is looking at how you keep the doors open to people who don't earn very high incomes.
And that leads me to my next question, still related to develop. Currently, if you look at public data available with Canopy multiple listing service, the average list price for the town of Davidson has notched over $1.1 million. Is there anything you would change about the residential portion of the current development plan in the town of Davidson? And David, I'll start with you.
There was a little bit of noise. Could you repeat the tail end of that?
Yep. So the average list price currently for the town of Davidson is $1.1 million. Is there anything you would change about the residential portion of the current plan for development in the town of Davidson?
Well, certainly affordability, not just with housing, but across the board, of being able to live in Davidson is a bit of a challenge, right? But affordability across the country, we're hearing about the missing middle, even where I used to live in Northern Virginia, that there are challenges there. I have seen the work that the town is doing in trying to leverage some of the town property with what they're doing with the DFI and trying to find a way to make it more affordable. As Connie has kind of said, as you do grow, you do tend to leave some people out, but we've got to find a way to make certain that people who serve Davidson, that people who work in Davidson can also afford to live in Davidson. So I think the town is already on a strong path, and we have to kind of let that play out and see what that brings us in the next coming years.
Thank you. Tracy, same question. The average list price in the town of Davidson is $1.1 million. Anything you would change about the current residential portion of the plan for development within the town of Davidson?
There's one thing that I've always paid attention to, and that this is not necessarily for an entire development, but when people buy properties, people have been tearing homes down and building these massive homes, which I think is attributing to the prices of homes going up. When I say massive, we're talking like 3 to 4 times the square footage. And so there's something in our ordinance that has a percentage of the size of your land, and that's the size of house that you could build. But I think the percentage is off, apparently. Is that me or you?
Bill, will you turn down 4 for me just a smidge? Thank you.
I'm sorry, but but I think that percentage is off in terms of because we're building larger homes where there were smaller homes. So when they build, I always think about the character of the existing neighborhood. And so to me, that's one of the things that is affecting the high rise in the property values and the values of the homes.
Thank you. Autumn, same question for you. The average list price? Move forward. Thank you. Average list price in the town of Davidson is $1.1 million. Is there anything you would change about the current residential portion of the plan for development in the town of Davidson?
So we've created, and y'all have created, and the folks who came before us have created a truly amazing place to live, work, and shop. And because of that, there's high demand to be here. So that's exciting. Coming with that are some housing price issues like you're describing, and affordable living issues as well. So I think we as a board have tried, the market is the market, and I think we as a board have tried to mitigate some of those potential negative impacts through our affordable housing work that we've done with the property on Beatty Street, with Parkside Terrace, with some other properties in town to try to create some affordability there. But that mitigation is going to be really key. The historic preservation ordinance has been helpful to the issue that Tracy is describing of gentrification and the size of housing that's coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very short.
Connie?
Yeah, okay.
Connie, same question for you. The average list price in the town of Davidson is $1.1 million. Is there anything you would change about the current residential portion of the plan for development in the town of Davidson?
So in full disclosure, I'm the director of the Davidson Affordable Housing Coalition, and so I joined that board back in 1998 when we moved here, and we built we had a sort of a building boom then of doing some affordable rentals. What I wish we had known then, what I wish we could do more of now, though I respect how hard it is to do, is to look at when we put affordable housing on the ground, how do we keep it affordable? Not just in the immediate couple of years, but 10, 15, 20 years in, as it gets more and more difficult to sustain that affordability. I think a big piece of our focus needs to be on preserving natural affordable housing as it occurs here, and also really looking at the investments we've already made and making sure that we live out the full value of the investment we made in building them.
Thank you. Infrastructure. Tracy, I'm going to start with you on this first one, okay? What, if any, ideas do you support as it relates to funding infrastructure needs in the town of Davidson?
So there's for one, there's not one answer to the different challenges that we face. And so I support innovative ways in terms of addressing the traffic congestion and improving public transportation. I support the transportation referendum that will help address some of the congestion and things that occur because of our infrastructure. The one thing that really holds us back is that, the lake is right at, the end of our town. And so that's something to be challenging. And so I think that we have to address some things that cause traffic issues in terms of sight lines and the flow of traffic. And so the circles are something that I've supported, and I think that it's been helpful.
Thank you. David, what, if any, ideas do you support as it relates to funding infrastructure needs in the town of Davidson?
Well, I think it's trying to have some careful development that looks at ways that we can avoid having to lean more and more or overwhelm the current infrastructure that we have. So in Northern Virginia, for instance, in the Vienna community, there's a model plan that really is being followed across the country in this area called the Mosaic District, where they're actually able to leverage mixed use, have a wink and a nod to maintaining the open space that's needed, but also having to go vertical and build density. It also has access to some of the public transportation that's in the area, whether it's rail, whether it's bus, and of course also with different types of ride sharing. So looking at what the town has, looking at what the potential that the town could have with the 1 cent tax and what that could mean, which could be really just generationally changing what Davidson is able to do. I think looking at those options and how do we, again, not lean on our infrastructure or overwhelm it too much with smart growth.
Thank you. Connie, what, if any, ideas do you support as it relates to funding infrastructure needs in the town of Davidson?
So I think Tracy hit the nail on the head. I mean, infrastructure, what a big topic. So I'll just pick another little piece of it, and that is, so I served on the Vision Zero, or not the Vision Zero task force, the pedestrian safety task force here in town, and I think as we think about building infrastructure, we also have to spend a lot of time thinking about what do those changes in infrastructure do, particularly for pedestrian safety and bike safety, because we've made a real investment in making sure this is a walkable and bikeable town. And while we have to find ways to funnel the traffic around us and through us, every time we do that, we have to pay attention to what is that doing to people who are out there walking and biking and taking some of the pressures off the roads.
Thank you. Autumn, what, if any, ideas do you support as it relates to funding infrastructure needs in the town of Davidson?
Certainly the transit tax referendum is a good start, and that's one piece of it. But as my fellow candidates have said, it's a comprehensive problem with a multi-layered solutions That infrastructure is talking about greenways and side paths and bike paths, in addition to roads and potential transit, in addition to bus service or trolley service that we have during special events, in addition to the micro transit pilot program. So it's really kind of throwing bubblegum at the wall in terms of lots of different, don't do that in a high school room, but in lots of different ways to try to spread the use out in different modes of transportation.
Thank you. Switching to schools, and as we noted, we do have the next session will be with the CMS School Board District 1 candidates. We appreciate everyone who's here from that and willing to be here to talk tonight as well. But as it relates to being a commissioner in the town of Davidson, and Autumn, I'll stick with you again on this one. How would you describe the current needs for schools in the town of Davidson?
So a couple of things. I've had 4 kids of school, or have 4 kids of school age, all of whom went through Davidson Elementary and Bailey, and 1 through Huff. Certainly the development pressures that we feel up here impact our communities and our schools. CMS is working to address that. We've had placement in, making Davidson Elementary into a Davidson K-8, and then now going back to Bailey because of that growth. So continuing to keep their eye on that. I would love for CMS to have the ability to look at growth as it's coming versus once it's here, which I know from a data perspective is difficult to do, but I think it would make a tremendous impact in being ahead of that ball instead of behind it, if my sports metaphor is correct. Maybe.
Thank you. David, how would you describe the current needs for schools in the town of Davidson?
Well, it's certainly growing. As our community grows, it's going to have pressure on our school districts as it is. So now, admittedly, Beth and I don't have kids, and we actually live in Iredell County, in the Iredell County part of Davidson. So we haven't seen as much directly what all the pressures are within the school districts in town. But I do know that the growth is happening, and that they're, again, having to change Davidson K-8 back to Davidson Elementary, and hopefully find ways to offer to CMS the opportunities to grow in the area closer to home rather than having to bus kids too far, as some people already had to do with some of the solutions. So.
Thank you. Connie, how would you describe the current needs for schools in the town of Davidson?
So I think I heard this question differently. I was thinking in terms of the needs of the school children in Davidson, because we don't, as town commissioners, get to do much in terms of school policy or control that, though I would share what everyone said here about being able to manage growth. I think in terms of as more options for different schools have sprung up here, we have a wealth of choices for people with schools. I think something that our kids are losing in town is that connectedness that you get when everybody goes, and Rusty will remember this, when everybody goes to the same elementary school, when everybody goes to the same junior high school. And I think to the extent that we can have any impact on it, I think it's paying attention to providing lots of opportunities for the kids who live in Davidson to be together as kids and to experience what childhood is like here in Davidson. I think that's the best way we can support CMS, since we can't do much in terms of CMS policy.
Thank you. Tracy, how would you describe the current needs for schools in the town of Davidson?
I think that as we continue to grow, one of the things that's important is the size of the classroom, and I think that lends itself to the changes that CMS is trying to implement in building more schools to make more room, but also making sure that we have quality teachers, but we retain them. And that's something that I've seen where some contracts may not have been renewed, or changes in leadership has affected the overall administration of schools in Davidson. And so I think that being consistent and being able to retain quality administrators and as well as teachers and educators makes a difference, because that creates the atmosphere for the child, and we want to create an atmosphere where they learn best. And so I think that that's the key.
Thank you. Turning now to the budget for the town of Davidson. Connie, I'll start with you. What do you believe to be the top priorities for the budget for the town of Davidson?
So I think the top priorities are always public safety, infrastructure, and managing development and growth in the town. But we're lucky in Davidson to have quite a nice revenue base to work with. It's never as much as we need, but we have the ability to fund our nonprofit sector and really leverage what the local profit organizations in Davidson can provide on top of the services we can provide as a town hall. I think that's one way to maximize the revenues we have. I think in terms of overall priority, for me, it's affordable housing. I think it's probably affordable housing for a lot of folks sitting up here. I think that's one place where the town can make an investment that reflects one of the biggest threats we're seeing as we grow.
Thank you. Autumn, what do you believe to be the top priorities for the budget for the town of Davidson?
So I'm just nerdy enough that I have our Met County property tax graphics up here. And more than 50% of our current budget goes to our police, fire, public safety kind of infrastructure needs. So I think that's critically important in our community. Our community thinks that is important. We have on the horizon, fire station number 1 has outgrown its current home in our old town hall because of some turnaround ability. I might have made that word up, but turnaround ability of fire trucks. And so we'll be hyper focused on that in the coming years as well, in figuring out how to fund that and to serve our community, in addition to the transit-related issues are going to be tremendous.
Thank you. Tracy, what do you believe to be the top priorities for the budget for the town of Davidson?
Based on community feedback, public safety is number one, and I think that we've done a really good job in not only just keeping the town safe, but also implementing some of the changes, like with making sure that people are crossing safely, and also implementing a co-responder that goes along with the police in need of mental health assistance with people that they encounter. And then also the community engagement officer is very key to the whole value that we exude in terms of connectedness. But I think the second thing is also infrastructure, because that's where the greenways and are going to make a difference in the trajectory of being able to get from one place to another without being able to get into your car. So I think there's going to be a lot of money that needs to be spent toward infrastructure that way.
Thank you. David, what do you believe to be the top priorities for the budget for the town of Davidson?
Well, as the other candidates have said, certainly public safety is near the top, if not at the top. As communities grow, there's always opportunities for things to change and crime to start to slip in. So I think that we want to maintain that sort of broken windows theory, that we prevent things from happening before they get worse, to stay ahead of that and make certain that we're investing in our police force. Obviously, as the town grows, we have to invest in fire as well. And having seen, all the different discussions with what's happening with trying to move and relocate Fire Station 1. With that also comes walkability and public safety, being able to get around the different neighborhoods. And I think some of what I've seen, at least from where I live, is there are neighborhoods that have a connectivity issue, that there's no way to safely actually get around or into Davidson from Davidson Point. I know we're working on things with Summer Walk. So there needs to be a way to better connect our community so that folks see downtown as a continual destination, while it also is safe. Another thing that we have to spend money on is going to be affordable housing. There's a lot that the town is trying to do that's maybe a bit experimental, and I think that should be a budget priority as well, to make certain that not only is Davidson a desirable place to be, but it's a place that you can move to and stay.
Thank you. Switching now to community engagement. Autumn, what, if any, initiatives do you believe to be most effective to involve and engage with the community?
So community engagement to me is really what we do best as a community. And it's the people who we've helped create a beautiful space, but it's the people, it's the Friday nights behind Summit and the concerts on the green, or concerts at the circles and the parade, and sort of these places of gathering of people that makes it such a tremendous of community. So some of that is the event planning that the town does, and some of that is the town planning in terms of creating spaces that are third places that people can organically gather and feels good for people to gather. I think we as a board work to make sure that we have community engagement sessions with folks, and listening, as Tracy said earlier, is really critical to the work that we do in engagement.
Thank you. David, what, if any, initiatives do you believe to be most effective to involve and engage with the community?
I mean, one of those is having an approachable mentality. Certainly Mayor Knox, he kind of sets the tone at the top, and ever since I've moved to Davidson, he's been a very approachable person. We've had many coffees over at Summit and just phone conversations. But I also have to compliment the rest of our board as well. Tracy has helped me out in doing an advocate training for one of my clients, the American Medical Association. So seeing an approachable commission of public officials who want to engage with the public. I also know that the commissioner chats have been something that have been very valuable. I organized one at Davidson Point, and everyone was willing to come and participate. So it's having public officials who understand the value of engaging with the community. the benefits that can come from that and who are willing to do so as well and invest that time.
Thank you. Tracy, what, if any, initiatives do you believe to be most effective to involve and engage with the community?
The one thing I love about Davidson is that we're innovative. And so there are certain things that, like Concert on the Greens, they implemented the concerts at 30 circles at 30. And the Taste of Davidson and the Spring Fest that was new this year. That was a very huge success that took place at River Run soccer fields. And then also like the First Fridays and just listening to the businesses. One thing is like, I think one thing that's helpful is how some businesses will have like networking events, like King Canary, having network events with the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. The things that bring us most together is the creation of space and opportunity to come together. And so I think about the space behind Summit. And if you just sit back there and just watch, there's a playground, there's people engaging, there's meetings happening. And it's just a beautiful sight to see community coming together because they have space to do so.
Thank you. And Connie, what, if any, initiatives do you believe to be most effective to involve and engage with the community?
Well, I think you have to show up. I think you have to be at those events and be engaged and open to the community. As David said, you know, Rusty is an approachable guy. And I think that that's, as hard as this job is and as many hours as it takes to do this job, I think the crux of the job is being out there, available, ready to talk, ready to have a conversation, wherever that is, because as we can see here, it's hard to get people to any one single place. Even when it's an engaged community, it's hard to get people to show up on your schedule. So you kind of have to be on theirs. And that's a commitment, I think, that anyone who's on the town board needs to be able to make, needs to be able to say, I'll get to as many events as I can and I'll just be available.
Connectivity and access. David, I'll start with you. Which areas of town do you believe need the most help with connectivity in the town of Davidson?
Sort of answered that one. It's a running joke with the commission and mayor. Certainly Davidson Point, the community where I live, there's no safe way to walk or bicycle into town. I'm even nervous going out on my motorcycle on 115 half the time. But there are ways to work around that without necessarily building greenways or sidewalks or things that can take bigger investment. One of the things that benefited Davidson Point was Kim Fleming worked with me to set up a trolley service for Christmas in Davidson. So now we had a connection last year with that. We have it again available this year. What I saw when that happened, and I made certain that Davidson Point residents were going to participate and use the trolley, we had families getting together and having parties, having grandkids or kids coming over, folks who were able to leverage that and get into town. When in the past they said they wouldn't go into Christmas in Davidson. They didn't know where they could park. They didn't know how they would get around. The traffic would be atrocious. So I think Summers Walk, which is another new community on the outskirts of town that needs to have better connectivity. I know the town is working on that, and there's an ability to do that. But you know, the Davidson Point challenge is there are some jurisdictional issues. There are other things that are going to make greenways or sidewalks not necessarily possible in the near term. And so it's what other solutions can we find that maybe bring folks in from different communities on Saturday for the farmers market? Do we set up a trolley service for every community around that's on the outskirts that they share and participate in? So,
thank you. Autumn, which areas of town do you believe need the most help with connectivity in the town of Davidson?
I would venture to bet that every single neighborhood would say we have the most important needs. So I think David has outlined some of them, certainly Davidson Point in terms of connectivity there along North Main Street, but we've got Pot Sloan Beatty, it's got serious sidewalk needs there. We've got infrastructure needs in the River Run and the communities in kind of East Davidson, and connecting those together, and Greenway needs. So it's like choosing a favorite child. It's hard to say that one neighborhood or one community has the most needs, because I think each one of them would say, this is really important to our community, which is why we have to prioritize with like our 5-year sidewalk plan of this year we're doing this one, next year this one, next year this one, to make sure they're spread out throughout the whole community and it's an equitable approach to the community.
Thank you. Connie, which areas of town do you believe need the most help with connectivity in the town of Davidson?
So I'm not going to fall for that either, because it is like picking your favorite child or your favorite student. There's another way to think of connectivity, though. As the town does become more affluent, as house prices get up there over $1 million, another way of thinking about connectivity is, do people feel like there's space for them to be connected to this town? You know, restaurants cost a lot of money to go out to eat at, and do people feel welcome? Does every person that we invite to live in the town of Davidson feel legitimately connected to our town, and do they feel a sense of belongingness? So I think that's another way to think about this problem, and think about how you reach out to neighborhoods and get into those neighborhoods and listen to find out what would make people feel as if they are a part of this town.
Thank you. Tracy, what areas of town do you believe need the most help with connectivity in the town of Davidson?
To sum it up, the east side. And so that means like inclusive of Fisher Farm to the Narrow Passage, Greenway, and then the Kincaid Trail, and then the Summers Walk to Rivers Run, and then obviously Davidson Point. That's been something that we've been working on and just doing. So the connectivity is not just about greenways, whatever, but it's also about relationships and how we are inviting the different neighborhoods to better and more community engagement. And so to Connie, when you first said this, the first thing I thought of was people connectivity and bringing more affordable like options, because food, you know, we do a lot of things around food or whatever. So, but affordable food options would be really good, because I know people on the west side that don't feel connected to Main Street. And then there was a disconnect between North and South Main Street. And so we're working on different things and different businesses that will encourage more connectivity in that way as well.
Thank you. Connie, starting with you on the next question, events and arts. Are there any events or art projects you would like to see in the town of Davidson?
Yeah, I would like to see the town be able to invest in the Davidson Community Players project to develop more facility for performing arts. We've got this really nice auditorium here, and I think we could leverage it more. I was here last Friday night for Jill Lepore, and to see this entire auditorium filled with people, I think there's much, much more opportunity we have here, and I think that also spills over to the range of programming that Davidson Community Players can bring us by building their facility out as well.
Thank you. Autumn, are there any events or art projects you would like to see in the town of Davidson?
Yeah, first of all, I'm super excited about our Veterans Memorial in particular that you've probably seen grow in front of the post office space. And actually there were folks out there day before yesterday, literally community members out weeding and such. And that's pretty amazing to see as a community space and public art space. I am thrilled to have lots of art opportunities here through the college and the VAC there, as well as the community players. It would be wonderful to have a really public maker space, you know, get your hands dirty kind of ceramics and visual art kind of maker space here that we don't have. So I would love to get creative about that from an arts perspective.
Thank you. Tracy, are there any events or art projects you would like to see in the town of Davidson?
Well, one of the things that we've talked about the possibility, placemaking. We have funds that are allotted to placemaking, and so they've started doing some creative things like on South Main in front of the Davidson Elementary School, and we have another project coming up, South Main, so it really fits the vibe of Davidson to do the placemaking type artsy type of things, but also storytelling as part of our history and maintaining our history is something that I've served on a subcommittee, a storytelling committee, and I want to see more gatherings in that space and sharing of talents and ideas and also history.
Thank you. David, are there any events or art projects you would like to see in the town of Davidson?
I have to second a lot of what Tracy said about storytelling. So someone who basically focuses on storytelling for his professional career and how do you sort of best share a story. One of the things that was a little bit lacking in the Civics 101 course was a better understanding or a longer understanding of the true history of Davidson, whether it's Mayor Knox sharing some of his family history, what was happening and some of the things that have happened over on Davidson West. There's already a lot in town that's pretty vibrant, though, I'd like to say. And that's one of the reasons why we chose Davidson. Between going to the Visual Arts Center with the college, other concerts that are at the college, some of the items on the green or over at the circles, perhaps maybe just a little bit more collaboration on other ideas of what could come forth. But I think we already have a lot here that we could leverage and just expand upon that. So,
thank you. As we wrap up this first session, I'm going to go the reverse direction. As we started left to right, I'll go right to left just to finish it off that way. Why should people vote for you? And Connie, I'll start with you. This is the last question of the session, too, in case you were wondering.
Well, I've lived here for 30 years, and I think my perspective about how this town works has evolved over that 30 years. I've gotten to know more people in more parts of town. I've gotten to experience more of the strengths and the challenges in this town. And I think I bring an ability to connect people because of all that familiarity with the town. I'd like to have a chance to do it again.
Thank you. Autumn, why should people vote for you?
Thanks for that opportunity to say. I think what I bring to the board is that institutional knowledge of how we work as a board, also a longtime resident along with many here, and sort of knowledge of the community in town and who we want to be and how we want to get there. But that institutional knowledge, my background as a land use lawyer, and sort of how planning works, how laws work around things that we want to do or want to prioritize. What can we do as a board? What decisions can we make versus staff? I think that is also critically important. I have a first life focus on historic preservation and history, and that's really important to me as a person, and I think important to the community. And so I would bring, or will continue to bring, a passion there in trying to create our economic development around our uniquely Davidson spaces.
Thank you. Tracy, why should people vote for you?
I am a passionate servant leader, and I am all about community. And there are so many different challenges that we face, but the one thing that I know for sure is that in order to overcome those challenges, it takes collaboration. And so I'm a person that brings people together. 4 years ago, I started facilitating a neighborhood meeting in Davidson West to bring the neighborhood together because there is a great divide. And I believe that there's power in unity, even though we're diverse and our neighborhood was changing. How do we change with that? And so just helping people, walking alongside people in that vein of bringing people together is something that I do and I'm passionate about. And I think that more focus on how we grow is important, and being intentional about the needs as they change. And I think that one thing that I'm really focused on is making Davidson a better place, but an inviting place that also lends itself to meet the needs of those who've been here a long time, and is also inviting to the new residents. And so I think that I'm the type of person that I'm like the bridge that brings different diversities together. And so that's what I bring to the table, amongst other things.
Thank you. And David, why should people vote for you?
Well, that's the only smart decision to make, actually. No, just kidding. I really come in with a very unique set of skill sets and experiences compared to other folks who are running for commission. I did grow up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and even though I lived in the DC area for a number of years, I've always been David from a small town. So I care about small towns. I understand what small towns are like, having grown up in one. And I've also seen what has happened to my hometown as things kind of fell apart as the economy started to crumble. Davidson doesn't just operate in a vacuum, though. Davidson has to work with elected officials at other levels, and that's something that I specialize in, the ability to work with federal and state lawmakers. I know that we pulled down ARPA funding, American Plan Rescue Act, to do some things with Parnham Park. There are other things that we've had to reach out to federal lawmakers, so I have that type of experience. And you want a commission that's going to be much like a chorus. You know, the best choir out there doesn't have all sopranos, all tenors, all bass voices. You want to have a different sort of perspective that comes together, and different voices that come together, and different backgrounds that come together. Just like Connie said in her statement in News of Davidson, she thinks that it's important that new voices are engaged with town. I'm that new voice that should be engaged with the commission.
Thank you each for being here this evening, willing to talk to people, answer questions. David, Tracy, Autumn, and Connie, 4 candidates for the commissioners for the town of Davidson. We have now reached our first break, or our only break this evening, our intermission between the town commissioners. And next up, we've got CMS School Board District 1. Up next, we're going to take a short recess, and we will return. Thank you.